And with that, welcome to today's video, in other words, the third part of the Call Them Husband challenge. Today's ship is SakuAtsuAranKita, is one of the new ships, and I really hope you will enjoy this. Let's go! But first, a word from today's sponsor, myself. I'm excited to tell you that I have new merch, and I love this. It's an idea that my mother helped me to come up with. It's a self-care line. So if you look at these designs and think, no, the complete text is the wrong way around. It's not, because you're supposed to only be able to read that when you look in the mirror, and every time you do, it should remind you that you are awesome and that you are loved and that you deserve it. And yeah, that's my new merch. Check it out in the link in the description. It will help me so much. With the code EARLYBIRD, you can get 10% off only for this month. And yeah, I don't pay myself well for this placement, so please check it out. Sakusa sighed. He was on his way to pick Kita up from the farm as a nice little surprise, and because he didn't know yet how else to do the challenge. His fingers wrapped tighter around the steering wheel the closer he got, and he tensed. Part of him didn't even want to know how Kita would react. He chose to do the challenge with the former captain first because when it came down to it, Kita would let him down gently. He'd be clear and precise, leaving no room for misunderstandings or misinterpretations. He gulped. Sakusa had never really considered marriage. Only the brief nightmare washed over him when hearing about Oikawa's engagement that Atsumu might do something similar. But that would require Atsumu to want to marry him, and somehow this seemed even more absurd. When he parked, he quickly put on a mask, his fingers twitching nervously as he adjusted it, and he reached for the hand sanitizer again. It was getting to him. With a scowl, he climbed out of the car and into the building where he expected Kita. He wasn't there, however, and as he walked around it, Sakusa was greeted by one of his co-workers. "Oh, Sakusa-san, you must be here for Kita-sama." He cleared his throat. From the corner of his eye, he could see the familiar white hair appearing at the mention of his name. He waited a few more seconds to make sure Kita would hear him when he spoke again. "Yeah, I wanted to pick up my husband." His heart hammered wildly in his chest as he waited for the consequences to crash down upon him. He saw Kita clearly now. His expression barely seemed to change, but Sakusa knew better. He saw the slight widening of his eyes, the way his lips twitched and pressed together, and the subtle raise of his eyebrows. "I'll go home for the day. Please make sure the others are informed." "Alright, Kita-san. Have a great evening." He waved them goodbye as Kita went past him, motioning for Sakusa to follow him, but not taking his hand as usual. The ace pressed his lips together, trying to avoid showing any sign of rejection on his face. In the car, it was eerily silent. They sat in the silence for a while before even starting on their way home. Sakusa couldn't see Kita's face, it was hidden behind hair, and he made a great effort not to meet his gaze. "I'm sorry." Kita nodded slowly. I almost lost my composure there. A small, amused huff escaped his throat. To think you would say something like that just out of the blue. I would have been expecting it from Atsumu, but you... He trailed off, and Sakusa didn't quite know what to make of that. Suddenly, Kita's head snapped up, and he looked at him, smiling brightly. His cheeks were dyed a beautiful pink, and he looked at him with such warmth in his eyes. Before Sakusa could truly grasp what was happening, Kita pulled him down by his collar, removed his mask gently, and leaned in close enough that their lips almost touched. Color. Green. He closed the gap between them himself, indulging in the warm sensation, utterly overwhelmed by his emotions. When they separated again, Kita let himself sink into his seat, contently. I want you to call me that again, but I don't want to lie to my coworkers, so we'll have to make it official soon. Sakusa could swear he had a heart attack right then and there. Sakusa pushed the car gloomily through the aisles of the grocery store, by now very much convinced that the worst part of this challenge was that it forced him to go outside. He hid behind his mask, desperately trying to become invisible, or even better, simply disappear. A low chuckle resonated to his right, and he did need to turn around to know that it was Aran. His boyfriend smiled as he placed the items they were lacking in the cart. He gave him a sympathetic look, but kept his distance, well aware that Sakusa didn't like to be touched in moments like these. Kiyomi, why did you decide to accompany me? He leaned over the other end of the cart, watching the dark, almost black eyes carefully for any change, while his own reflected a glint of mischief mixed with genuine concern. What, do you not value my company? Of course I do. There is no one I'd rather be with right now. Sakusa chuckled. I'm gonna tell Atsumu that I'm your favorite. Aran rolled his eyes, sighing in defeat at the lack of information, and turned around again to resume searching for everything they needed. Sakusa, on the other hand, was still deep in thought, contemplating how he could casually introduce him as his husband. Sure, he could simply call him that, but worst case, he wouldn't react because it doesn't apply to him. And did it even count as public if the aisle was empty? Either way, it would be extremely awkward. His desire to vanish increased tenfold at the thought alone. He'd have to get back at Suna for forcing him to participate, and at Iwaizumi for giving Suna stupid ideas. He just didn't know how yet. Excuse me, can I help you, sir? Sakusa was torn out of his thoughts by one of the employees. For a short moment, surprise flashed over his face. Most people avoided him when he was wearing the mask and scowling. Atsumu said it was because it looked so grumpy. You're intimidating them. The ace had been quite content with that, but it looked like he wouldn't get away with it this time. From the corner of his eye, he could see Aran preparing to interject, and was happy to let him when it struck him that this might be his best chance. Thanks. My husband is help enough. He turned away from the employee, tugged at Aran's sleeve, and pulled him along a different path. The others still seemed struck speechless and simply let Sakusa guide them. When the silence prolonged, however, he got fidgety. Husband, huh? He just hummed and nodded slowly, pretending to be focused on the items in front of him. Odd. I don't see a ring on my finger yet. Sakusa froze. Do you want to? Aran smiled softly. Of course. However, don't think that means I'll let you propose first. You will probably have to fight Atsumu for that. Aran laughed, and it was as if the world lit up a bit, and if Sakusa smiled beneath the mask, no one had to know. Sakusa yawned as they left training today. The week had been exhausting, a lot of specialized practice and problem targeting. The next season was about to start, and their first game was slowly announcing itself in the distance. He loved volleyball, But at the end of these weeks, he just wanted to fall into bed and sleep, surrounded by the warmth of his boyfriends. One of which was currently walking beside him, talking about something trivial with an amount of energy no one should have after training this intensely. Sakusa failed to listen from the start, and while Atsumu acted offended every time he couldn't answer the occasional question, both of them knew that Sakusa was too exhausted to listen properly at this point. And whenever Atsumu thought he wasn't looking, the ace caught a look of fondness flashing over his face when he looked at him. Under his mask, his lips curled into a small smile, and he was just about to intertwine the fingers when he spotted something in the distance that instantly made his mood sour. The small group of reporters approached them quickly, a bit wary of the grumpy ace who they learned to avoid quickly. Sakusa did them a favor and fastened his pace, looking straight ahead, a clear signal that he didn't want to be talked to. However, as usual, Atsumu did no such thing, and as soon as 2 steps separated them, the reporters filled the gap and bombarded the setter with questions, some concerning the upcoming season, others were oddly personal. Atsumu's cockiness had quickly earned him a playboy image once he was out of high school and entering the professional league, supported by his seemingly quickly changing partners. As such, not just sports magazines were interested in the unusually popular athlete. Sakusa endured 2 waves of questions before he intervened. He rolled his eyes and felt an uncomfortable itch spreading under his skin when one asked if it was true that he was in an open relationship with multiple people. With determined steps, he turned around and grabbed Atsumu by his sleeve. "Excuse me, but my husband and I have to leave. Otherwise, Shinsuke will get mad at us." He dragged him along, not even waiting for Atsumu or the reporters to process his words, and painfully aware that they will be all over social media in a few hours, including photos that were undoubtedly taken of them right now. At that, he risked a glance back at the setter. Atsumu looked confused. Suddenly, silently, a warm blush was spreading on his face and he seemed at a loss for words. Pleased, Sakusa continued forward. Should they think what they must? Atsumu belonged to his side. The setter decided to be with him, and it filled the ace with pride. Anyone should know that. You're not playing fair, Ami. Sakusa shrugged his shoulders. Why, do you want Shinsuke to get mad at us? That's not what I meant, and you know that. He grinned and came to a sudden halt. Do I? Atsumu glared at him, though it was a little less convincing with the blush still decorating his face. Before the setter could protest, Sakusa swiftly pulled on the mask and leaned in to kiss him, only stopping mere millimeters before his lips. May I? He could feel Atsumu's breath ghosting over his face, as well as his words when he spoke again. You idiot. The blonde closed the gap between them. Whatever reporter was brave enough to follow them would have quite the story to tell. That seals the deal. You will be all over social media tomorrow. Yep. Before we went public, I once simply smiled at one of Akashi's texts, and it was reason enough to cause an uproar. That's interesting and all, but can we talk about how he made Kita, the living robot, suddenly, I don't know, human? I gotta tell Atsumu. Sounds like volunteering to be next to me. I already said I would go next. Jeez. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope you liked it. If you did, consider leaving a like because it really helps this channel grow. And consider subscribing so you won't miss out on the next parts. On the topic of next parts, How do you think Suna's partners will react? How did you like this? Do you think it was in character of these characters? And tell me your favorite quote under the pinned comment. It will mean so much to me. Now, one more thing. Please check out the merch in the description, and special thanks to my nerdy neckos. And now I hope you have all a wonderful and amazing day. Here are my other social medias and more videos in the end cut.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.